Today we're looking at playing through the lines. For this particular session, what we're looking at here is you can see we've got a blue team and a red team, and we've set up 4 at the back, 4 in the middle of the park, 2 up front for the blue team because the blue team are going to be attacking. And then just for the reds, all I'm using here is we're using 4 reds in defence and a midfield 4 as well. It's easy to talk about playing through the lines with a straightforward 4-4-2 formation. And in future videos, I'll look at how we can play through the lines and how different formations require different movement, etc. But for this, really straightforward. I'm going to be the blue team. Blue team are going to be the attacking team, and they're the ones that are going to have to get into the create the space and get into space to receive the ball and how to showcase how we play through the middle of the park. Okay, so what we're going to do first of all though is we're going to talk about where the space actually is. So if I come around here, you can see that the pitch is again set up 2 banks of 4. So the reds, you can see here, have quite a wide, this is one of the wingers here, and another winger over this side, so they spread quite wide. And then the gap between the middle of the park, which is here, and the centre halves is sizable. Okay, so we can actually say, well, during a game, you might bring those in. So let's bring those in here. Get our blues on side. So you can see now that in a normal game, the spaces in between the opposition midfield and defence are quite limited. What you can also see is that there are certain areas where there are gaps, and we can highlight these gaps using some corner flags. So what we can say is that there is a gap for our guys, and that gap is in here, emphasised by the 4 corner flags, or it could be in here through the middle of the park, emphasised by these 4 corner flags, and then the same out on the other side where you've got kind of that square there. So in your mind's eye, when you're looking at this video, you can almost picture where you are on the park. If you're a midfielder, you know that there is space between their defence and our midfield, and it's our job to get into that space. But, and this is where we start to go back to some of the training sessions that you might have done in the past, that where we've looked at positioning in the space. So we know here we've got a nice square going on. Okay, so our midfielders are looking, or our centre forwards equally, but the centre forwards I'll come back to in a second. So let's just put him outside the square. We know that our midfielders, in order to receive the ball and actually be able to create space and to be able to turn and then create creative opportunities and chance creation in the final third, have to be in plenty of space. So it's no good if I've got all this square and I'm right on the corner here. So I'm right next to the opposition midfielder, because what does the opposition midfielder need to do? All he does is he steps in and he marks me. I've got to make it difficult for them, which means I've got to keep momentum. I've got to keep running. I've got to make sure that I'm doing more to get into that space and stay in that space than the people that are around me. But I don't want to compromise on width, obviously. So we talk about width when we play football, getting the ball out wide. We still want to do that. So the best places to play through the lines are this space here, this space in the middle here, especially if you're playing with a midfield 3, and this space here. They're the areas of the pitch where we can find space easier. Because the minute that, so for instance, the opposition could say, okay, well, our midfielder is here, he's on his own, big space around him, look, you can see all that space around him. So what could happen is the opposition right winger, in this case, could come in and mark that space, and he could pick me up straight there. But then I've got an issue as a defensive team, because that'll allow my winger to have a good run at that fullback. So there's no cover there now. Actually, I'm 1-on-1, and if I get past him, I'm then in and I can score. So that, generally speaking, most opposition coaches will tell their wide men, stay out wide, don't tuck in. The only time they'll say tuck in is maybe when you're winning, there's only a few minutes left, and they want to break any chances up that might be coming through the lines where the midfield is a bit tired and they're not working as well as they should. So generally speaking, what will happen is this centre midfielder will have to come in here. Now, the minute he does, then we've got options. So the attacker here could drop into this space because that midfielder moving just over here, just from here to here, creates space now in here, okay? And again, this midfielder for the opposition could come in here, but now what have we created? Tons of space out here. And all this is through movement. So we all know when you move in football, the minute you move, you create space, either for yourself or for someone else. But the key to playing through the lines, let's get some balls going. 1 second. Let's get some balls going. Okay, so I'm at the back. I'm looking to play a ball through to the middle of the park. Okay, now where am I going to look to play it? Well, we've already said that one of the key areas is here and in the centre and at the other side. So the three main areas, 1, 2, 3. That's where we can make the most space and create the most opportunities. So if I just remove these flags that we used to highlight where the space was, let's take these out. And now let's focus on, let's use the 4 reds here, these 4 reds. 1, 2, 3, 4. As I want you to think of them as corner flags for this particular session. And this is your centre midfielder. Now, your centre midfielder has to create the most space from that area as possible, which means that he can't be too close to a defender. He's got to keep coming away from the defenders, make them work, make them chase him. The minute they chase him, there's space in behind for an attacker to kind of make that run, so that a ball through, actually, from this end, if I just come around here, you can see that if I'm looking to play into this guy in the middle, so if I send that ball through, let's just send that ball up there. Okay, so I've played that ball into him, but he's got somebody right behind him. So he needs to know, because he's made that run, but his space is being closed down now, he needs to know that there is somebody there for him. So he can either put the ball back in, so he can play it back to the defender who's come up, or he's got the option to then look to the next square. So obviously we should have a midfielder who's making that run into the next area of the pitch where we can gain space, so he can put it across. And the minute he does that, the centre forward can then make a run at an angle. So he makes that angle run, and it got all this space in behind, and provided the pass is timely, he doesn't get caught offside. So he's making that run in here, and because we've created that space, we can now play a ball in, which puts us in the final third of the pitch and hopefully creates chances for our team. Now let's do that again. Let's look at that again, because in this situation, the fullback's got the ball and he's looking for the best opportunity to make that pass. And we're looking to play through the lines. So he needs runners. He needs people who are running into the space, okay? Now what I can do to start with is I can put this midfielder here. I can actually mark their midfielder out of the game. By staying static here, I actually mark their midfielder out of the game, because he can't leave me now. He's got to stay with me. And what that allows me to do is one of the centre forwards, one of our attacking players, can actually come into that space that we've created between the lines. And then as a fullback, I'm looking to play that ball straight through. So I'm going to play that ball up to the forward who's just come into the middle of the park. And he's then got time to turn. And again, it's the same principle. The minute he turns, our attacking midfielder is making that run in behind to get the ball back, to then obviously go through and create a goal scoring opportunity.